trouble now.
Liverpool are all but beaten before half-time.
I'm still a believer. I can feel the tectonic plate shifting under our feet as we speak. I still genuinely feel it's going to bubble to the surface in the northwest of England Tuesday at Anfield. Something's going to happen.
In Europe, they do well. Why? Anfield. This is the most heated stadium in Europe in a return game. That's the only place you don't want to go, is to Anfield, because the atmosphere, everything is special there.
To finish the job. Anfield is ready. It's a perfect atmosphere for a night where they need to do something very, very special. Henderson onto his left foot, saved, but then away again. Hello. Here we go. Liverpool do get the start. They were so craving.
If he's got useful players and he trains them the right way and he gets them all to do what they can do, and he merges them all together. It's a form of socialism, you know, and they're all helping each other.
Sadio Mane's on his way to the middle, so is wide. Nailed him! Oh, it's in! Off the bench, he scored! Liverpool get a second goal in front of the Cup, and it really is game on in the Champions League now.
Oh, there's panic now. Even Valverde's worried.
Shaqiri in towards one. Oh, again! Wow! Oh, Tini Wijnaldum, what an impact you have made on this game. And Liverpool are on terms, yes, on terms. Settles for the corner.
The great Ronnie Moran, he used to say to us, find the duck.
And he spotted that. Oh, they caught them! They caught Barcelona napping! Brilliant thinking by Alexander-Arnold. Clinical finish from Divock Origi. Liverpool ahead. Full-time whistle has gone. Mission impossible complete.
All right, Kenny, I've got a special surprise for you. The dream team back together again. Murphy, Cunningham, and Steve McManaman is on the line. Good evening.
How are we, boys? You okay? Nice to see you again. Nice to speak to you.
Evening, Steve.
When Kenny Cunningham said the tectonic plates were shifting around the northwest,
I remember that.
Do you think that was the moment when all of this became possible?
Oh, of course it was, mate. Of course it was. Mm-hmm. That was the moment that the Barcelona team trembled when they were at the training grounds. That was the start of the end for them, I think, though, that famous saying off the Cunningham fella.
As we went through last Thursday night, you've been at a lot of magnificent occasions in football. Have you ever experienced anything like Anfield last night?
No, mate, I haven't. I actually think it was better. I mean, I know people are saying what was better between themselves, between that game and the 45 minutes in Istanbul, but I think it was yesterday. Firstly, because it was at Anfield, it was special. I think they rode their luck a lot of the time. I thought in Istanbul that they missed all kinds of chances. Jerzy Zudek had to make all kinds of fantastic saves. Last night was very, very one-sided. That's why I thought it was even better. And then, coupled with the fact that they've got the best player probably in the history of football. If you go along with the likes of him and Cristiano, depending on who you like. But when you've got him on the other side as well, and the fact that he could score a goal at any time of the game, I thought yesterday's game was the best, the one that you'll talk about, for in the annals of a wonderful Anfield history. I think this was the game that everybody will talk about.
Steve, it's interesting you say that about the atmosphere. I was just speaking to a friend of mine there about an hour ago. He's a football fan, not a Liverpool fan. It was his first time in Anfield last night. He got a couple of tickets, and I just spoke to him literally an hour ago, and he said, Ken, honestly, he said, I can't describe it, what it was like, the atmosphere, the Anfield effect, the Cup, the whole thing. He said, I've heard it all before myself, I've commentated on it, I've mentioned, he said, but until you actually experience what I experienced last night, he said it really was unique, it was that special. Now, how did you spend the immediate aftermath of the game? I know you were commentating the game, Steve. Yeah. Did you get around the dressing room, any of the players? No,
mate, no. I to be honest, I just left them to it. You can imagine what the atmosphere was like and the amount of people wanting to get down there. And I literally walked back to the TV compound, and you sort of, I mean, even I was probably like the fans. You're sort of in a bit of a daze, really. You couldn't believe what you'd just seen. Yeah. I went back to the TV compound, and we have a Winnebago set up there where we can go and wait for the lads, because the lads were still on the TV. Lineker and Robbie and Michael Owen and Rio, they were still working. So I went back, and just had a couple of beers and calmed down, and was speaking to a couple of the the people who were with me, a few of our bosses, because of course Liverpool getting to the final is great for BT as well as a whole, like it is for whoever, one of the Irish TV companies, whatever. So, that was helping, and we were just speaking about logistics. But more importantly, we were like, how has that just happened? I had to watch loads of little clips on YouTube and things like that, and on the television, just to remind me of moments that went on, because the game seemed to pass us by, so quickly. That you had to go back and have another look at them just to see if you got it all on the night. So it was an incredible game and an absolute amazing result.
There were so many moments, obviously, from the first minute of Andy Robertson, I'm going to say, ruffling Lionel Messi's hair, to Wijnaldum's turn in the middle of the pitch, not even including the goals. Like, what was the standout moment for you?
I just thought Wijnaldum's second goal. Liverpool's second, Wijnaldum's first goal. You sort of felt that, of course, the Origi first goal was great, but, you go in 45 minutes at half-time. You wanted them to respond again in the second half. You wanted them to come out in the second half and go again. I mean, the energy levels from the Liverpool team, I thought, was exceptional. You can, as we know by watching the Spanish league, you can run all over the Spanish teams. They're just not used to it. So I wanted Liverpool, if they could possibly do it, to come out firing in the second half. And I thought that second goal just absolutely lifted Anfield yet again. I mean, the fact that he scored a wonderful header less than 2 minutes later, that's another thing. But I just thought that second goal sort of just made everybody just sort of, jump up again and start all over again. And, you felt once the second went in, well, this is coming, but you just didn't expect it to come so quickly and so easily.
Yeah.
Barcelona, we spoke about it last week. 3-0 last year at Roma, 4-0 the year before at Paris Saint-Germain. When they collapse. They haven't got a pair of, they haven't got somebody in there who can say, right, this is not going against us. Let's just kick the ball in the corner flag, get up the pitch and be compact. They still want to play all the time, and sometimes they need, someone who's a bit of experience, someone with a bit of an old head to say, look, we're in trouble here. Let's just calm down, let's man the barricades for 10 minutes until we get a foothold in the game. But they didn't. And in the end, they just get run over all the time.
There was a special moment at full time as well, when pretty much everybody had gone back into the dressing room and Trent Alexander-Arnold was still on the pitch by himself. The whole stadium is still full, everyone's still singing, and you just look at this guy, local boy, 20 years of age, and what he's just achieved. It's the dream.
It was fitting that he walked past the Barcelona fans and they were giving him a huge round of applause as well. But yeah, I mean, as people know, I work at the academy, and I've seen Trent come through from 16, 17, 18, and his level of progression and his willingness to learn and take on board advice is exceptional. We've all seen, brilliant kids who are 16 and 17 years of age, certainly at Anfield, but when he keeps on going on that trajectory, it reminds me a bit of like Raheem Sterling, who was there a couple of years ago, and where they keep on learning and keep on improving every single year. There's no levelling out point. His ability is just getting better and better and better. And his awareness last night, along with his crossing ability, I think speaks volumes, doesn't it? And no doubt, that was one of the things. He never played in the first leg at the Camp Nou, and I think Jürgen knows that decision was wrong, and he was right back in yesterday, and he was exceptional.
So with those tectonic plates that have now shifted, is the Earth's atmosphere, is it all slightly changed? The kilter, is it off for Brighton on Sunday, and may something magical happen there as well? We
would love it, wouldn't we? But I think...
don't get greedy, Steve. Don't get greedy.
Brighton against Newcastle a couple of weeks ago, and I thought they were terrible, Brighton, and no disrespect to them, they're safe now. The last home game of the season for them. Are they really going to stop the Manchester City juggernaut? My head says there's no chance. I think City will walk over them. Unfortunately, I think City and Liverpool are so strong that they're just beating everybody in front of them, and nobody can do either of them any favours because they're just too good. So I think we'll settle for being favourites for the Champions League final, whoever Liverpool are going to play against. Yeah, certainly a better position than Liverpool were in 6 days ago. Steve, you've been brilliant with your time. Come back and see us again soon. Lovely. Cheers, Steve. Take care. Bye-bye. Magic.
Richie McCormack has appeared in studio.
It's pretty harsh.
How do we do that?
It's pretty harsh that Mackie just completely
How did
ignored
we
my
do
questions.
that?
Why'd you blank out my questions? And, his lack of response to me.
Steve McManaman, one of the lucky ones to be at Anfield last night. We should say that he was with us at the Aviva Stadium last Thursday night, and we do a lot of road shows. I would put Steve McManaman in the top 3 nicest guys who've come to one of our road shows. What do you say, Kenny?
Yeah, no, I couldn't disagree with that. Considering what he's achieved in the game, and people forget, Rich, in terms of...
I don't forget, Kenny. I'm mindful of
No, you wouldn't. I know you're a guru in terms of football knowledge is very good. But in terms of that jump that he made to Real Madrid, the company that he played in, and he played regularly. He wasn't on the periphery. He wasn't a Michael Owen off the bench and played a small quota games.
And I look at that Champions League final 2000 against Valencia. He ran the show at the Stade de France. He was a fantastic player for Madrid. And people I think because people aren't looking at Spanish football as much as they can do now, per se, they don't necessarily get the impression of what he did in Spain, but it was brilliant.
Yeah.
Obviously, tonight's show is probably going to divide opinion. Pat and Cork, sorry lads, as a United fan I might have to switch off. Still getting sick. Barcelona were pathetic. So how much of last night was down to how poor Barcelona were?
I don't quite buy into that Barcelona capitulation. I mean, I was watching the game here, it can be a little bit distracting here. We're on air off, the volume's torn down, but still you kind of, you get to measure the type of game there was. Barcelona, for me, actually generally done okay. They created some very good opportunities in that game. Messi had a couple of great chances, and there were small periods into the game when they actually exercised a bit of control, dropped the tempo, got their passing game going for periods in that game.
Second period of the first half.
Yeah, exactly. But when Liverpool ramped it up, played that high-intensity football, which we know they can, that kind of really rattled them, and they took their chances more clinical, etc., etc. But to say that was, I know it's a Manchester United fan, but take that away. To say that was a Barcelona capitulation last night for me would be wrong.
Two things are true. It was a fantastic Liverpool performance and they absolutely deserved every inch of their 4-0 win, but it was also a spineless performance at times from Barcelona, particularly for the fourth goal, which we know of, which they switched off for the corner. But I was watching, because putting together the montage I had to kind of time stuff out, and I saw people talk about the 2 minutes between Wijnaldum's first and second goals. There's actually only about 40 seconds from the kick-off from his first to the scoring of his second. And the way Barca lost possession in that period of play, albeit brief, was just so sloppy.
Well, when you say it's not spineless, so you've got to give Liverpool credit. We're talking about Liverpool's high intensity, kind of high pressure. This is a natural consequence of that. And you talk about Barcelona, the goals they concede, Barcelona have always been fallible for a long period of time.
Well, you look at them at this year's group stage.
I'm talking defensively, always, even when they're at their very best, there was always that sense of if you could get any kind of sustained pressure on the penalty box, good quality delivery into the box. You know, there was a kind of fragility across that defensive line, particularly in central areas. PK, as good as he is, always question marks about him in terms of quality of his defending. And we saw again last night, Liverpool simplifying the game, getting the ball into wide areas, good quality delivery into the box, committing players into the box, and PK just wasn't as dominant as he should be. That Wijnaldum goal was a great header, but he stood between the two Barcelona centre halves unopposed and headed the ball into the corner. I mean, up to the end of the pitch, that wouldn't happen. Van Dijk, he'd physically impose himself, he'd push people out of the way, he'd pick up the flight of the ball early, he'd be more aggressive in terms of his defensive heading. We didn't see that from Barcelona, but we've never seen that from Barcelona. But they've never been tested enough. They've been that good. Possession of the ball has been that good. They've dominated games for so long.
Last year in Rome.
Oh, the last couple of years, yeah, absolutely. But it's been a total transformation in the Barcelona team the past couple of years. I mean, Messi literally is carrying that team. People say he's always carried that team. Not so much. He never carried that team to the extent that he is at the moment. When Iniesta and Xavi were at their best in that central midfield, they kind of complemented his abilities. But when they departed the scene, he has literally been carrying that team. And when we spoke about it for maybe last week, when there's a little drop off in terms of his performances, nobody else there to pick up the slack and drive that team forward.
That's something Noel Quinn touched upon last night in Virgin Media. He was saying that maybe they need to find another way around just sending everything through Messi, because if the Messi option fails, you know, as talented players that they have.
Surely you can't ignore the greatest player of all time.
No, you can't. But he's actually tailored the team around Messi. Valverde. He's been interesting the past couple. You see Barcelona now play 4-4-2 the last couple of years, more than I've ever seen them. And the reason behind that for me is to get Messi in the central area and almost in that number 10 position behind Suarez or whoever it is, save his legs a little bit and get him into a central area of the pitch where he can best influence the game. For me, it's not about they have to stop going through Messi. They got to get better quality players surrounding Messi. Suarez is nowhere near the player that he was. He's on that downward trajectory now. They can't stick with him too much longer for me. You've got to even look in that central midfield position.
Rakitic,
Rakitic, Vidal, take any of them. Yeah, exactly. So you were talking about, can they still go through Messi? Yeah, absolutely. Got to go through him even more so, but they've got to improve. They've got to improve the foundation.
Well, I did commentary on the final group stage game against PSV, which, from memory, they won 2-1, and PSV ripped them apart for the 90 minutes and must have had 10, 12 clear chances and just didn't take them. And you're watching them that night, you're watching the midfield thinking, how is this a Barcelona midfield?
Weird. They've spent an awful lot of money, because Kenny's talking about they need to bring a certain level of player to complement Messi or to work with him or to work at his level. In the past 2-3 years, they've spent a lot of money buying players that haven't worked out. Like that Jonathan Liu line from his post-match that everybody shared from the Independent today. Philippe Coutinho has been missing for the last half hour and his parents are starting to get worried. They spent like 100 million quid on him. They spent 100 million quid on Ousmane Dembele and he didn't play last night. Granted, he had a knock, I believe, but still, you're he's not at the level where you're counting on an Ousmane Dembele to do the job in Champions League semi-final.
But it's the profile of the player, particularly in that central midfield area. That is the way it was always going to be. An opportunity for Liverpool over the two legs, that central midfield area, the power that they have, the physicality, the legs box to box. They could there was opportunities for them to run over that Barcelona team. That's what they did for long periods in that semi-final. Barcelona need to be able to match that. They demand a certain level of technical ability from their central midfield players, which certainly Busquets during his career, and Rakitic to a point gives them. But also they need to find more legs there, more running power, a little bit more physicality in that central area of the pitch. Otherwise, the likes of Liverpool and the likes of Atletico, traditionally, those type of teams can almost outpower them in that central area of the pitch. That's where you can get the advantage over Barcelona, as good as they are.
Just how far behind are United from that standard? It's frightening and depressing for us United fans. We are where Liverpool were 20 years ago, and they are where we were, says Kieran in Cork.
Are all these texts coming in from out in the office? Because last night was a very, very pro-Manchester United office during that game.
Is there something in that? I get the sense that Liverpool supporters have been let down so many times, particularly in terms of league campaigns, that it's struggling to seep into them that actually this might last. That if they don't win the league this Sunday, if Manchester City don't slip up, actually next year they can contend for the title again. Whereas that's never really happened in the 30 years.
That's not even a debate in terms of, is this a kind of once-off? Can they sustain? I mean, nobody's even having that conversation. That's a conversation we should. But Liverpool now are here to stay, and they're actually going to get better.
For 3 and 4 years.
Yeah, but in particular, I think Rich, the signings that he's made over the past year, the development of the side is just literally, it's all knit together. We're talking about Barcelona, those key signings. You're talking about Coutinho, Dembele, big money signings, but not quite the right fit. Haven't quite made a difference. Fabinho coming into that football club, obviously Van Dijk, even Keita to a certain extent, you can see potentially going forward round pegs and round holes there in that kind of Liverpool machine, like such an efficient kind of cohesive unit.
And does that make it easier for them actually over the next few years than, say, Manchester United trying to play catch up, that they can buy players and trust that Klopp over the space of 18 months is going to make them better, whereas United, it feels, don't have the coaching setup and need to go out and buy the finished article right now?
Oh, absolutely, because I made the argument earlier, I don't think Liverpool need to buy this summer. For me, this Liverpool squad will evolve and get better organically over the course of the next year. Trent Alexander-Arnold is going to get better defensively. He needs to get better. He will. Good coaching around him. The partnership with Gomez and Van Dijk is only going to get stronger by itself. Keita, there's more to come from him. Chamberlain's going to come in, offer a different
There's clearly a lot of talk behind Ryan Brewster and stuff like that as well.
Yeah, exactly. And the young talent coming off. So without Liverpool spending a penny in the transfer, I think they will. I think there'll be a couple of people coming out off the wage bill, maybe a couple of players on the periphery.
Well, that's been part of the genius of Michael Edwards, who's been in charge of their transfers, is the amount of money he's been able to bring in for fringe players over the last couple of years. And I think we touched on it yesterday morning of, like, Ryan Kent has been named Young Player of the Year in the Scottish Premiership. Suddenly Liverpool are probably looking at him thinking he's worth 12-15 million. Sell 2 or 3 of those players, suddenly you've got yourself a nice £50 million player.
Yeah, absolutely.
At break-even point.
18 million quid for Dominic Solanke is one of the best pieces of business I've ever seen in the history of football.
Well, you wouldn't put it past them getting 18 million quid for Nathaniel Klein.
Yeah. Now there's business to be done there. That's why I think you could argue no. I would argue no business certainly needs to be done. But if they wanted, if Klopp went to the board and said, "Look, just give me one." Give me one maybe top class, like you're saying. I think you could probably generate 30, 40 million for maybe people going out the door, and maybe throw that at one player. Whether it's an auxiliary striker, whether he's even as well as Origi's done, whether Origi's got his confidence going forward in terms of back of midfield.
I have never seen a striker score so many important goals and still look like he's so lacking in confidence. He still looks like he's embarrassed to celebrate.
Paul Warhurst, 1993. on his run and getting Sheffield Wednesday to 2 cup finals.
Just wanting to be a defender.
I'm a defender. And then Blackburn signed him, was like, oh, you're a midfielder. He went, oh, grand. But he'd gone on that run of scoring loads of goals for Sheffield Wednesday, and I don't think ever looked properly comfortable. But
it's almost Origi's response is almost, don't expect it to happen next time. Don't get carried away, lads.
Yeah, I've got a bit of. I think he's got a rough ride, Origi, for me. I think he's got some good attributes. You're talking about Klopp, how he sees in terms of his front three. He's going to play as one of the front three. That's not going to change. So if you look at the kind of profile in terms of what he looks for, look at Liverpool's front three in terms of pace, those energy levels, kind of dynamism, very kind of direct, a bit of physicality. He's got a bit of that. He kind of ticks a lot of the boxes there, Origi. For me, it's almost like a confidence thing a little bit with him, and just kind of sticking with him a run of games. And he's a young lad as well. He's only developing. So if you're talking about backup, nobody's going to dispossess those front three. We know that. But if you're talking about backup, somebody have a bit of confidence coming in, if you need them for maybe 6 weeks, 2 months of the season, if there's a reasonably serious injury to them front three, I wouldn't be panicking. I've always had a bit of time for Origi. I've thought, I can see something in that young Floyd, so I wouldn't be in a rush.
Look at his finish for the fourth goal last night.
But that's not off the back of last week. If you'd have said it to me like 10 days ago, Origi, I would have said, no, stick with that young Floyd. Maybe Sturridge out the door, get him off the way.
He's out of contract, so I think he's definitely going to go. My final thought, actually, and I don't know how many people noticed in those final 3 minutes when Daniel Sturridge was on the pitch. Dear God, Daniel, you have one job. Run as fast as you can for as long as you can. Chase down the centre-backs. All he was doing was waiting for Liverpool to win the ball back so he could break away and score another goal. That's not your job there, Daniel. Take one for the team for once. Dear God, we're getting a lot of texts in about Liverpool. We'll get to those. We're going to chat more about last night's game on the football show. Mark Lawrenson will join us. But there is another Champions League semi-final to come.
That there is. And Tottenham have a 1-0 first leg deficit to overturn in Amsterdam if they're to reach that first ever Champions League final of theirs. Tonight's hosts are Ajax, and they're in possession of that slender lead. Ajax line out as we expected, more or less, with Andre Onana in goal. Nusser Mazraoui and Matthijs de Ligt, Daley Blind and Nicolas Tagliafico are their back four. In midfield, it's Frenkie de Jong, Lasse Schöne and Donny van de Beek, the goal scorer from last week. Hakim Ziyech, Dusan Tadic and David Neres are their front three. For Tottenham, 2 changes from last week. Hugo Lloris starts in goal. Then we've got a back four, Kieran Trippier, Toby Alderweireld, Jan Vertonghen back in the side after that head injury, and Danny Rose. In midfield, it's Victor Wanyama and Moussa Sissoko, with Eriksen, Dele Alli and Lucas Moura in behind Heung-min Son. Spurs manager Mauricio Pochettino urging his players to savour the moment.
I think we are living a dream, because first of all was to play Champions League with Tottenham. 5 years ago when we arrived was to first of all was to reduce the gap with the top four, and then to have the possibility to play Champions League, and then was to qualify in the last 16, and then to quarterfinals, and now to be on semi-final. For us it's a bonus. For myself it's a bonus. Of course, that we are now here and we want to try to win, and we are going to fight to try to win and be in the final. But I am not thinking about if we are creating history or we are doing something special.
Happy with that Spurs team?
Oh yeah, it's the 11. It's the 11 I wanted to say. I'd be interested exactly the kind of permutation and kind of central midfield where he goes with an orthodox 2 alongside each other and a number 10. Kind of Ali or Eriksen off the front.
So 4-2-3-1 or perhaps a diamond?
No, not a diamond, but a holding midfielder who would be Wanyama, and then, which might be my preference, Wanyama just sitting and really being aware of those runs from Van de Beek, those third man runs. He's got to pick them up. But having Sissoko and another, where it's Ali or Eriksen a little bit higher up the pitch, who can very quickly get into contact with that kind of front three high up the pitch. But yeah, I'm happy with that 11.
All right, we're going to talk more about that game after 7:30.
Chelsea are to take their appeal against their transfer ban to the Court of Arbitration for Sport. FIFA today upheld a ban against the club signing any senior players during the next 2 transfer windows. A Chelsea statement says they categorically refute the findings of the FIFA Appeal Committee, which agreed they had broken rules over the signing of minors. The club hope that an appeal to CAS will at least see the ban frozen, allowing them to sign players in the summer.
So is that best case scenario right now, that the ban is going to happen at some stage. They're just hoping to get one more transfer window out of it and plan
if they
for the
take the ban
years.
or if they take their appeal to CAS could put a freeze on the ban, and eventually, obviously, they could overturn it. But in the meantime, Chelsea this summer might be able to sign players, but that's by no means a given at this stage. It seems it's gone past UEFA, gone past FIFA, and it's all been upheld, saying they've clearly done wrong. So
they've obviously already bought Christian Pulisic, and that will go ahead regardless of this.
They bought him in January, and he's been loaned back to Borussia Dortmund for the end of the season.
You'd wonder what this would mean for Eden Hazard potentially leaving the club.
I think it'll be a tactical play. We've seen it previously with other clubs, particularly in
Barcelona
Spain.
done one,
in terms of making the appeal now, pretty much no value here. But we'll give ourselves at least one transfer window to do our business. The Hazard one, I can't see him hanging around. I think he'll be out the door. But they do need to do a little bit of business. Spoke about Kovacic, that loan period is ending, and they need to make some significant signings this summer. Just be interesting to see if the manager's around to make those decisions. But whoever it is, they certainly need those signings in key areas of the pitch.
Padraig Harrington has successfully lobbied to have the number of European Ryder Cup wildcards reduced to 3. The European captain for next year at Whistling Straits says he wanted more players on his team who qualified automatically. Harrington will announce his 3 wildcard picks after next year's BMW PGA Championship at Wentworth.
A very Harrington style move. We've had decades of captains wanting more and more power, more and more picks, and he says, actually, I'll have one less.
Yeah, it emboldens the players. It says go and do it yourself.
Yeah. It does, and I think the fact that the way he's changed it, so it'll be 5 picks from the world points list and 4 from the European, also opens up that the players who aren't playing a lot of golf in Europe should all be able to force their way in. You'll get the best 5 of them there, and probably means there's a little bit less pressure on him in terms of who he selects from guys who aren't playing for the European Tour, which, remember, they are representing, not Europe.
That's a difficult balance, isn't it? Like, there's a lot of pressure there in terms of showing enough respect to the European Tour in terms of taking people from there. So that balance between the world events I take and the European Tour is a difficult one to strike. But I like the fact he's whittled it down to 3. It's almost having confidence in the lads who've qualified. Yeah, you've qualified on merit. I'm happy with that. I'll back you.
Well, 9 times out of 10, the guy who comes 5th in the world points list is going to be one of your picks anyways. So maybe this way, actually, because he's gained his place automatically,
just codifies it.
Goes in with more confidence.
Yeah,
you're not relying on a captain.
Yeah,
you go, I've earned my place to be here.
Yeah, it's true.
The Kilkenny injury crisis is deepened still further ahead of the start of the Leinster Hurling Championship. Brian Cody is set to be without former All-Star defender Joey Holden for Saturday evening's meeting with Dublin at Nolan Park. Holden has picked up a hamstring injury, and Cody's already without Owen Murphy, Conor Delaney, Killian Buckley and James Marr with long-term injuries. And the Cats boss told Off the Ball he'll just have to deal with the hand he's dealt.
It's just hard luck, I'm sure. Nobody goes out with the intention to get injured or to injure anybody else, and it can be just kind of freak stuff or unfortunate stuff. And, 2 of the lads, we got 3 lads with broken bones and legs, 2 of them happened in club matches, 1 happened in club training. They could cheerfully have happened at our training or at our matches either. That's unfortunate, a bad word.
Thanks for what?
Kenny's just inquiring about the English women's football team.
The Lionesses.
The squad was announced today for the World Cup this summer, and what they did was they got a different celebrity to announce every member of the squad.
Why?
But don't panic. Because you've noticed it. That's why. So that people would take... you said, I saw James Corden.
No, but people will take a bit of notice of the Women's World Cup and the England team and get to know the players on a one-on-one basis because such and such has identified with them.
Don't stress though, Kenny.
That's tacky. I think
this wasn't how the players were finding out. Phil Neville rang them all yesterday. This was just for public consumption.
And James Corden's not very original, that is it? Pulling James Corden out to do it.
Well, who do you want?
Pretty predictable.
Who do you want?
Who don't
James
anybody.
Corden is probably the biggest celebrity they can get.
I want to read about it on the back of the newspapers. The squad.
Well, you can do that as well.
Like any other squad that's announced.
The kids don't buy the newspapers.
Think of the kids,
Kenny. But they're on Instagram and they now know who all these players are.
Encourage the kids to buy a few more newspapers.
They're on Instagram stories, Kenny, and they want to see who David Beckham has picked for the side.
Bloody hell, Kenny. Just can't win. They're trying something different. Trying to promote the game.
Cross the line there.
Liverpool are having a Leicester season.
Cross the line.
Liverpool are having a Leicester season. Can't see City dropping many points next season. Says Blue Moon Kev.
No, Kev.
Is that a nightmare there?
Couldn't disagree more.
I'm a United fan and have to say fair play to Liverpool. It does hurt as a United fan, but only because Liverpool have got their house in order and backed Klopp to recruit and develop, whereas United have been awful. All the evidence is that there is no quick fix to get to City or Liverpool's level. Liverpool have been fantastic. Also, tip of the hat to Kenny, the only pundit brave enough to give Liverpool a real chance. If you recall the game in Old Trafford in the quarterfinal, Messi didn't have a kick. It was sort of seen that one of the reasons he didn't have a kick in the quarter-final at Old Trafford was that Chris Smalling rattled him earlier in the game. Did Andy Robertson rattle him early last night? Did he psych him out of it?
No. I don't think so, no. It's not so much that. I think the level of intensity which they showed Liverpool was a factor for the reasons that we've said. I think Barcelona find it difficult to deal with that. And I think Liverpool needed to create that little bit of chaos early on in the game to really energise the whole crowd. They did that first 5-10 minutes. I remember looking at Henderson and Fabinho and thinking, but it almost looked as if borderline out control stuff, which is what you need to be able to control it. But it was real borderline stuff. I thought, well, be careful here now, lads.
Well, he flew into one challenge, the one he got booked for, that was almost one of those brilliant, full-blooded challenges.
But reckless at the same time, borderline, but still it served its purpose. Kind of Barcelona kind of knocked them off kilter a bit, energised the crowd, and ended up bang with the first goal. So it kind of served its purpose.
Don't forget about the real hero from last night, the ball boy who fed Alexander-Arnold the ball for the swift corner.
100%.
What a night, what a team, says Brendan in League Slip. Do Liverpool have a ball boy coach the way they have a throw-in coach?
I think
marginal gains.
Klopp admitted, I think in the post-match last night, that they had discussed in their analysis of Barcelona's games up until last night that they dawdle at set pieces and they can switch off at set pieces. So they had this rolling ball thing where as soon as one went out of play, there's another one on the pitch ready to go. And that was part of the corner.
The best thing about that, and this happens quite a lot, like most teams do this if they're particularly desperate for goals, is the odd time you'll see that the team get back into it and then they want to slow things down. But obviously the ball boys are generally kids and they're probably scared of their life of doing the wrong thing. So it's the 92nd minute, you're trying to waste time and he's throwing it back as quickly as he can to the opposition player. Nightmare scenario.
It does make a difference though. You know what it's like, you don't get the ball quickly. As a defender, you get 2 or 3 seconds to organise yourself, pull people around you, better defensive shape. That's absolutely key. Those 2-3 seconds, it really can matter.
Do you ever switch off as a defender the way the Barcelona defence did last night?
Yeah, of course I did. I've made all those mistakes, those criticisms I make of players, observations more so than criticisms, only because I've done it myself time and time again. But when you get a bit older, more experience, you like to think you make less of them, absolutely. I mean, there was a caption there, like there was a still photo from behind Trent Alexander-Arnold, was tight up behind them, and he just struck the ball. He literally just made contact with the corner kick. Shaqiri's in the picture. He's walking towards Alexander-Arnold and his eyes on the floor, so he's not even aware. And in the penalty box, you can see all the Barcelona shirts, and all you can see is numbers. All I can see is numbers, the back of the Barcelona players. It's amazing.
And what's
Trent Alexander-Arnold is the only one in motion. I mean, there's 8 Barcelona defenders. I counted. There's 8 of them in the box against 2 Liverpool players when he strikes that corner kick. And Origi is in so much space. It's unbelievable. I've never seen a gap that big open up, particularly in that front part of the goal. We've all kind of switched off, a couple of people, but generally you have people in covering most.
Is it just that happens all the time and you never notice because it's a split-second thing?
I don't think it happens all, because like I said, even when your players switch off, generally you've 8 players in the box. You're generally covering most areas inside the penalty box. So if that corner comes in quick, somebody can get in contact with the player and make some kind of physical contact. It was amazing that amount of space opened up around the Origi, but a brilliant spot clearly from Alexander-Arnold.
You done, Richie?
One final story, I guess. London Irish have made another statement signing ahead of their return to the English Premiership. All Blacks winger Waisake Naholo will join the Exiles in the summer. Declan Kidney's side have already secured the services of Sean O'Brien and Paddy Jackson, as well as the Aussie trio of Nick Phipps, Kopi Kepu and Curtis Rona.
All right, thanks a lot for that, Richie. As always, Kenny Cunningham is sticking with us for the night. We're going to take a quick break and then we're going to look ahead to Spurs against Ajax.
Off the ball on Newstalk. Lunchtime Live.
Newstalk is knocking on doors and discovering some home truths about the Irish housing market. And as always, I want to hear your story. So whether you're trying to rent, buy your first home, or stuck in a house that's too small, let me know. Email us now at lunchtimelive@newstalk.com or tweet us at lunchtimelivent.
Lunchtime Live with Ciara Kelly. Weekdays from midday on Newstalk.
Hi, my name is Kate. Before I did the Camino walk in transition year, I went to Foot Solutions.